Welcome to Life Change Solutions, a podcast for hope, health, and happiness as we go through change. I'm your host, Kendra Crompton, and this episode is going to be all about love. And I know you're probably asking yourself, wait a minute, isn't this a podcast for change? What's love got to do with it? I actually just saw the Tina Turner musical, and so I had to put that one in there. What's love got to do with the change? Well, it has everything to do with change. If you've listened to some of my other podcasts or watched some of my other podcasts, you can go through and see in the changes that people have experienced, love had almost everything to do with it. And even those that I talk about health or the losing weight, self-care is a form of love. When we love ourselves, then we're going to care for ourselves better. So love has everything to do with change. And since this is the month of February, I thought it was perfect timing to do a podcast on love. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, I even wore red shirt for love. So I want to talk a little bit because I got a lot of comments about the book, Love by Leo Buscaglia. Thank you all for all of your comments. And when I did the New Year, New You, I told some books that I thought might be good for reading this year as you go through change. And that was one of them. Now, Leo Buscaglia, just a little bit about him. He was a professor at the University of California, University of Southern California. And I'm just going to read a little bit about his bio, or tell you and read parts of it. But he was known as Dr. Love. He started a class at the University of Southern California that was non-credit after one of his students committed suicide. And he decided that he needed to give a class on love and teach the students how to love and about love. And so with that, he didn't really know how many kids would even come because it was a non-credit class. The class ended up being standing room only. It was completely full. They had to move the class to the auditorium. It was such a popular class. It then became a postgraduate class. And he wrote, as I showed you before, this book, Love, What Life is All About. He then went on to write several more books about love and some other things. And I brought a couple of them with me that I think are worth looking into if you want to learn more about love. And we're going to talk about why we want to learn about love. He also talks about change, and that in order to change, that love is really important. So a little bit more about Leo Buscaglia. He was the first, you may have heard, you got to get 5 hugs a day. He was the first to state and promote that concept that humanity's needs for hugs. He said 5 hugs to survive, 8 hugs to maintain, and 12 to thrive. So those of you that heard about the 5 hugs a day, just know that he went on to say 8 to maintain and 12 to thrive. So if you want to thrive, it's 12 hugs a day. I love that because I think that physical touch is so important, and hugging people, we can feel that. Now with COVID, we didn't get to do that very much, but now we can. And I would I'm going to give you some love challenges today. And one is to get some hugs in. But I want to read a little bit about him and what he said. He said, loving relationships, though necessary for life, health, and growth, are among the most complicated skills. He then goes on to talk about how life is the classroom for learning to love. And I am such a big believer of this. I believe very strongly that we are here on this earth to learn to love, that's our main purpose, is to learn to love, because what gives us more happiness than love. Think about movies. And the movies that are about love, they make us giddy. And when we're in love, how we feel, we're happy and we're just walking on air. And so love is really a basic need. It's not even, yes, it is a want, but it's actually a need. We need to love and we need to be loved. And we all want to be loved for who we are, no matter what. In fact, every book I've read and every movie I've seen, it talks about people falling in love, but they love them with all their faults and all their, inadequacies and even, all their great things as well. But they love all those quirky things about them. And I think that is when we talk about love, is knowing that no matter what, we're going to have that love and we can love in that same way. But how do we learn to do that? How do we learn to love? And I want to read a little bit about some of the things that Leo talks about, first about change and then about love. He says, in order to change, then man must trust that he is capable of change. And I love that. We must know that we can change. I got a comment on one of my podcasts about the listener said he didn't think that it was possible to change. And it's not possible unless you believe that you can change. And when you believe that you can change, you can change. He goes on to say, if he is dissatisfied with his ability to live in love, for example, then he must face the fact, but be convinced that he is able to do something about it. He also said that if we surround that knowing that one is always capable of change, the second step lies in making the decision to change. Change does not occur by merely willing it, any more than behavior changes simply through insight. One can know something is evil, painful, or dangerous and still pursue it relentlessly. One can only move toward change when he willfully arrives at a proposal to do so. And then he talks about love, and he said a total immersion in life offers the best classroom for learning to love. And as you know, my podcast is called Life Change Solutions. It's all about living life, what happens in life, and then how we have solutions to live the best life that we can and to have hope, health, and happiness in that life. He goes on to say, and I love this part, the third step in change is perhaps the most difficult. It involves the actual processes of the relearning. All learning involves searching, finding, analyzing, evaluating, experiencing, accepting, rejecting, practice, and reinforcement. I love that he makes that comment about love, because I think that we think we're just going to fall in love and we know how to love, but I think it takes all of these that he mentioned, and especially practice. For those of you that are Christian and believe in the Bible, there's a scripture that says, pray with all the energy of your heart to have that love, to have charity. It doesn't say, just pray to have it. It says with all the energy of your heart, which to me tells me that to get that love, to have it, to learn it, that we have to work hard for it. That it's not just a little bit of energy, it's all the energy of our heart. So my love challenge is number one is learn about love. If we learn, we can learn. If we learn about something, we can then practice it, and then we can teach it. So learning about love, I think, is the most, yes, we can experience it too, but it's really important to learn about it. So how do we learn about love? Well, this is a great book to start with. I will say he taught a course, and Leo Buscaglia taught a course, and this was inspired by his course. And then after that, he wrote some others, which I think are worth noting. One is called Living, Loving, and Learning. Got the Jubilant #1 bestseller. Great one to learn about love. And then he wrote a couple of more. This one's just a fun one that he gives quotes. It's called Born for Love. And then this one, Loving Each Other. So that's a place to start, is to first learn about love. Challenge #1, learn about love. There's some other books that I've mentioned in my podcast. One was The Love Languages, when we had, we talked about teenagers, and to learn what your child's love language is and learn what your families are so that you can love better. So that's another book I would highly recommend. I'm not really going to go into marriage per se. There's a ton of marriage books I think are awesome, but more learning to love unconditionally, purely, and having that love. I know that being a mother and just experiencing that helped me to learn about love more than anything and brought me more joy. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that loving your children brings you happiness and joy. Now, they may not always love you back, but you can always love them. And that alone can bring you joy. So learning about love, I think, is the next, the #1 step. And then I want to read one more thing of a quote from Gandhi. And he says, "There is no love where there is no will." So when we, another just reinforcing that we have to have the will to love. We have to want to love. And when we do, we can achieve that and we can feel that. Now, one of the ways that I think we can learn to is by experiencing. So this is the second challenge. When we love others and we show that love for others, that love will come back to us. We'll feel that love and we'll be happy. The other day, I had Monica Barnes on one of my podcasts. She had lost her husband, and she asked me, "What makes you happy?" And the first thing that came to my mind is my children, because I love them unconditionally. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, and believe me, they have said some things that were not kind in my life, I still love them. And they know that I will always love them. And it's me giving that love that brings me joy. So what makes me happy is to give that love to them unconditionally. So that's the second one that I'm going to, second challenge, is to practice loving, and maybe not just with family. The other day I visited a lady who's 90, it was her 96th birthday, and she had just been in the hospital, so they had to cancel her party. And I thought, oh, she cannot go without some visits. So I went and visited her, and she was so happy to have a visit. And I was happy that I could give that to her, that love to her. And there's that connection. We talked about the connections with Ariel Levitt in one of my podcasts, and how when we have those connections, we feel light and positive energy. That's love. I believe that is love. We generate a certain amount of love that then comes out as light and energy. And how important is that? What a different world this would be if no matter what, we all could love, even when people hurt us. People have asked me, well, how'd you get through your divorce? How can you still, talk to him? I said, well, because I love him as a person. I'm not in love with him now, but I love him as a person, and I know who he is and who he can be. And so I think that changes the narrative when we're offended, when people hurt us, is that, I still love him as a person. I can still love people, even though they've hurt me. I think that, those of you, again, who are Christian, Jesus was the prime example of that. Even on the cross, when people were hurting him, he loved them. And he said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's a really hard thing to do, to love people in the midst of being hurt. It takes practice and it's hard. I have known a few people who can do that. And their whole embodiment is love. I'm not there yet. And maybe you're not either, but you'd like to be. So the third challenge is to go back and listen to some of my podcasts and pick out where you see that love. I'm going to go through some of those with you right now about love and how it was in some of those podcasts, so you can kind of pick and choose which ones you might want to go back and listen to. And please subscribe to my podcast channel, but also to my YouTube channel, or follow my podcast channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you can see me and also maybe get a little more feel of that connection. And I hope that you're feeling love right now. So the first podcast that I did was with Yadira Ricardes, and her story was amazing. And she said how she got through that very difficult time of being kidnapped and raped was that she knew that God loved her, and that love got her through that. And then beyond that, she received love from her church community to help her through. And then she was able to give that love to others, and eventually married someone who had lost his wife, and they have a wonderful, loving relationship. So if you have not yet listened to podcast one with Yadira Ricardes, I think it's called the Sweeter Love, Our Change Can Be Sweeter. She is amazing. And just as soon as you meet her, you just want to hug her because you can feel her love. The second one was unconditionally loving teenagers. It was about teenagers. I had a therapist on her here, and she talked about how important it is that they know that no matter what mistakes they make, that you love them. And then I also mentioned the love languages in there, how important it is to know how your children receive love and give love. And that really helps a lot in raising children. The next one was I had my daughter on, and you can feel the love between us, that mother-daughter love. And she certainly has shown me so much love. And I have to say, just makes me smile every time she gives me a call. And she'll send me these packages that are very thought out. And I just know she's put so much love into them, and food like I'm starving or something. But she sends me these really cute packages with things that she thinks that are as aware of that I would like. So I can feel her love, and I think through that podcast, it's just a fun one. That one is not on YouTube, by the way, for my YouTube listeners. If you'd like, my YouTube watchers, if you'd like to see that one, it's only on the podcast app. So go back and listen to that one. And then I talked about my mother falling, and you can see the love of me and my mom, but also when she was in the hospital, the love of that community, her church community, and how everyone came to visit her and how much that meant to her. And she felt that love. And then I had Monica Barnes, who had just came and visited me again, and Janelle, who had lost their spouses. And yet they found each other as travel companions, and they do so much to love others, but they also received so much love and support from their church community and also from friends and family. And then I had two wonderful missionaries, young missionaries who are out serving, and you could just feel their love, because when we serve others, we develop that love. We love those people that we serve. Why do we love our children? Because we're serving them and we're helping them. So we love those people that we serve and we help. And you can just see that love. And I talk about light and energy through them and their, just their whole, like I said, embodiment. They're just filled with love. So if you have not listened to that one, it's called Be the Light. And it is just one of the most popular ones on my both the podcast and the YouTube channel. So go ahead and take a listen to that one. And then we hear Marco Murillo's story of recovery and how much his wife loves him still, and she's the one who was the really initiator of him to go into recovery and has been his support and the love of that family. It's just such a wonderful story. If you have not listened to Marco Murillo's podcast, please go and listen to that. He also has many guests on his show that you will see in recovery, that love and support is really one of the main things that helps people stay in recovery. And then my own story of life and love and the support that I've received throughout my life from the very beginning with my parents, my family, friends, and then me serving others, and how when I was serving, even through difficult times, I felt the love of those people that I was serving. And I think I got more out of it than maybe they did from my service. In fact, I was just out in Utah and I spoke to one of the ladies who at the time was very ill and couldn't move. And just her gratitude of me being there, and you could just feel how her love towards me. And so we and I had a wonderful conversation when I was out in Utah about that time in her life and my life and how we helped each other through that love. So go ahead and listen to my story, and I think you'll see a lot of love in that one. And then, one of my favorites is Bob's story. If you haven't listened to Is Marriage 50-50 or Bob's story, he talks about his love story with Phyllis. And I'm actually going to read a little bit of that from my book. But what I loved about that story is marriage is hard, and they went through some hard times. And through it all, they still have this love. And when we talk about that intimate marriage, intimate love in a marriage, it's sometimes hard. We get into daily routines and we can start to talk to our spouse in not loving ways. And that happens in their marriage, but they know that they love each other. There was a study done years ago. It's an ongoing study. It's the longest study ever done in the world. And it followed several Harvard students and also some inner city boys. So it followed these boys through their lifespan. And what that research found was that those people who were in long-term loving relationships were the happiest. It was a happiness study, by the way. There's a TED Talk on it. I don't know exactly. I think if you looked up Harvard study of happiness, you would find it. But it talks about love and that intimate love, having those long-lasting, loving relationships, whether they are a partner, whether they're family members, that having those loving relationships brings the most happiness. So, I would say, I do want to read a little bit about Phyllis's, and then there's a couple others in my book that I talk about when I talk about relationships, and I talk about quality relationships. So I want to read a little bit about that, but there's a quote in there. It says, "Good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period." So, and then this is what I write about Bob and Phyllis. You may recall Bob and Phyllis from earlier. Even when Phyllis was completely non-functional after the death of their daughter, Bob respected her for who she was and knew he wanted to be with her no matter what. She knew she could count on him during that time and he on her when he had his kidney transplant. Even when Phyllis is on Bob's case to drink water, exercise, and eat well, or he jokingly complains how she is the boss, they both speak highly of each other, saying things like, he's the best, one of a kind, or there's no one like Phyllis. The same was evident in another story, Chris's story, when he described his wife as a rock star. And with Spencer, another, if you haven't picked up my book, by the way, I think you will love this book, but I talk about those relationships. And Spencer had lost his wife, who happened to be my cousin. And then he married an amazing girl, and they have 11 children. So if you haven't picked up my book and you want to read that story, it's an amazing story of two people who then were able to find love. And he says this about his new wife: Erica is amazing, patient, humble, bright, and has an optimistic outlook. Quality relationships, and this is me speaking, can be developed even when a partner or loved one has passed. And we talk about that with Monica and Janelle as well. So the reason I brought that up is when we look at relationships and long-lasting relationships, one of the things that they've found is the most important, besides love, is respect and admiration. Well, first, trust. Trust is number one, and then respect is number two. And in all of those relationships, you can feel that respect. And when we love people, we respect them, and we want them to succeed, and we want to feel that back. And in these relationships, you will definitely feel that as you read my book. And so I'm going to put a little plug in for my book. I'm extending the sale of my book. It is on sale on Amazon for $6.99. It's normally $10.99. I'm extending that sale through February 15th as an act of love for this Love Challenge month. So the first challenge is to learn about love. The second challenge is to practice love. And then, did I give you a third challenge? I think the third challenge would be to then notice how you feel when you serve others and feel that love, because I think you will find that your hope, health, and happiness increases as you love. And I'm going to end on that note as take the love challenge for the month of February, pick up a copy of my book, Life Change Solutions, A Guide for Hope, Health, and Happiness. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be back. I've got some things coming up. My parents are coming back to stay with me, and I'm actually writing a book on relationships and love. So I'm hoping to get that out soon and be back with you in the podcast and with YouTube. Keep an eye out on my YouTube channel. I may put little blips on there before I get back to the podcasting. But I want to thank all of you for listening and for watching and for commenting and sharing, following me and subscribing me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have felt and gleaned something from these podcasts. I know I have learned a lot from the guests who have come onto my podcast. And I want to leave this with you and wish you hope, health, and happiness as you go through life and as you go through change. If you have not subscribed to me or followed me, please do so. But also, if you could look on the notes, and you will find where you can contact me. I will be doing some mind-body medicine classes and also some other groups. So I think I've talked to you about that before. So follow me, subscribe to me, and DM me or email me or Facebook message me, and I will respond if you're interested in that course, the Mind Body Medicine course. Thank you.